Architect Platonov, Direction of Space. A life of the city and a human life inside of it are correlated closely. Moscow is the city where all layers of its centuries-old history have been reflected through architecture, from residential and public buildings to parks, monasteries and churches. Even its radial and circular structure is a unique piece of culture. The highest quality of architecture provides this harmony. It is certainly the best city in the world for me. That's why, when I'm asked which city is better, I have no other answer. The city is in its bright sundresses, very modern. A whole plethora of architects have created a colorful palette of Moscow architecture. Today, contemporaries extend their traditions. They tend to comprehend the past, to feel the present and look in the future.
Очень трудно вписаться в жизнь города.
It is hard to write yourself down into urban life and remain yourself at the same time. And you do it not to stand out against the background, but because you're different.
Потому что надо как-то выделиться, а потому что ты другой.
For me, the art of architecture means the play of space with due regard for human intentions, like theater, church, or a stadium. Yuri Platonov is an academician of architecture, national architect of the USSR, a member of the Russian Academy of Architecture and Construction Sciences. He awarded the state prizes of the USSR and Russia, as well as the gold and silver medal of the Russian Academy of Arts. He is a man of art, and he thinks in a remarkable way about art. He thinks in the scale of a state and creates the whole districts associated to his name. For his project of the Scientific Center of the Academy of Agriculture in Novosibirsk, a new building of the Russian Academy of Sciences and Paleontology Museum in Moscow, Yuri Platonov was elected member of the French Academy of Architecture, an honorary member of the American Institute of Architecture, and Chevalier of the Cambridge Biographical Society, the Millennium Man. There was a good time when we won a lot of big competitions. A competition is an extremely important thing for the architect. It is the best opportunity for young architects to understand who you are, to define yourselves in architectural process. International competitions are very important. For example, our win in France, Plateau Beaubourg, and others, and others. I also participated in that competition, and Russia presented about 30 projects. Platonov was the only one who took the prize. Platonov held the post of the chief architect of the Russian Academy of Sciences for many years. He is a creative supervisor of the main project and scientific institute, where he continues traditions established by its founders, academicians Shusev, Zheltovsky and Polyakov.
Институт, конечно, который для меня, так сказать, родной дом, я пришел.
This institute is my home. I came here as a young architect in 1953, as my teachers invited me. Among those ones who walk with me all these years is Dmitry Metanev, the brilliant architect.
Мастер настоящий, архитектор Сергей Анатольевич Захаров.
Architect Sergei Zakharov and our current chief engineer, Alexander Nikiforov, a man who's got a relay from the notable engineer Sir Levenstein. I have worked with the latter for 30 years. Lyudmila Barsh, I treat her as my very talented and capable learner, but at the same time, as a person who can manage a big team and be responsible for that. Possibly, the professional career of Yuri Platonov could have been less successful without his talented colleagues and like-minded partners, such as Valentin Kogan, Sergei Buritsky, Mikhail Markovsky, Anna Baturova, Lev Lavrinov, and many others. I guess it had been 40 years since I knew him. He's made lots of projects since. Each one of them is a news for Moscow and Russia, and often for the world. There were notable people of our profession. Victor Lebedev, a man of hard lines but also of happy fortune, the real huge personality. I also found someone that I wanted to work with. That was Georgy Orlov, one of the authors of the great water power plant on Dnieper. I still keep a precious memory of my student days, when I was learning from Migran Lisician, a notable architect and teacher. But nevertheless, I preferred to work on my diploma with Alexei Dushkin. That was exceedingly important to me. I've had a remarkable friendship with the great French and Greek architect of modern times, George Kandelis. Platonov, today I may speak of him as my elder colleague, the one who helps not only me but also a team of architects I am in. He's not just an architect, he has ruled the USSR Union of Architects for a long period as its president. I've always been an anxious one. I care about an abased, downtrodden state of our profession. This opinion of mine made my comrades elect me president of the Union of Architects. So I became the last one. For the first time in history, I succeeded in speaking for all architects in the Kremlin. The USSR Congress of the People's Deputies. Dear delegates, it is about architecture and town planning in the country. The things are bad here. The new cities and villages are impersonal and uncomfortable. Sadly, the architecture of our cities is also a portrait depicting our attitude towards people, towards ourselves and our culture. Here, among the Kremlin cathedrals, I hope we realize that architecture is not just a cement, but a product of the high idea and spirit. A new building of the Russian Academy of Sciences and the Paleontology Museum, both built according to Platonov's projects, interlaced naturally with the motley surface of the city. The projects of moving Andreevsky and Krasnoyarsk railroad bridges by architects Pomerantsev and Proskurikov, the architectural and engineering monuments were fulfilled successfully. Both of them were turned into pedestrian bridges over the Moskva River. There are musicians. They hear a melody in their minds all the time, whatever they do. Just like them, Platonov has an architectural melody playing in his head. The skill of creating an expressive image was displayed by Platonov in his favorite work, the Paleontology Museum. It was a notable event for its time. We all were students and we used to go and gaze at it. That was a time when everyone wanted to see the Embassy of Sweden and the Paleontology Museum by Platonov. I would say it is one of the most interesting and modern buildings. I like the outer size very much, its color, the neat decision of inner spaces. This square building is made of red brick. 4 oval towers are outside the main perimeter. It reminds of an ancient fortress that conceals a sacred knowledge of the cradle of life. The mighty look makes the visitor feel solemnly and helps him to meet the witnesses of the Earth's ancient history. The statues of prehistoric lords of our planet stand in the inner yard that symbolizes an oasis. They seem to guard an invisible frontier that separates the present from an endless secret of the beginning.
Это сооружение
This building is dark and dramatic, a kind of trembling from the inside.
трепещущее, как будто изнутри.
The main decorative element is the grand ceramic panel, the Tree of Life, placed inside of the 18-meter tower. A gigantic composition reflected repeatedly in the glassy surface of the floor and ceilings shows the diversity of life on Earth. The walls are revetted with limestone with bas-reliefs showing the ancient animals.
И, в общем, получилось, конечно, уникальное сооружение, аналогов которого в мире нет. А музей находится
Generally,
на базе
it is the unique construction with no analogies in the world. The professional level of it is very high. You can organize classes and excursions for different audience here, from children to academicians. Specialists from many countries work in this institute, like United States, England, France, Germany. Many painters unknown then have worked in this place. Now they are famous persons. All process of decor was organized mainly by Yuri Platonov, and we're thankful. The artistic decision awarded a silver medal from the Academy of Arts and the State Prize of Russia. Lots of painters have worked jointly with architects: Alexander Belashov, Maria Favorskaya, Maya Miturich, Viktor Duvidov. A presidium building of the Russian Academy of Sciences is a well-made synthesis of a great urban device and architectural talent. When it was considered to build it, a state competition was announced. The garland was taken by the Platonov's project. I fortunately got the historic honor to build the new building in Moscow, the special building for the Academy of Sciences. In the period of faceless architecture, to build the Presidium was a feat, because it was not allowed to go beyond the limit. The new building of the Russian Academy of Sciences, now usual to our side, demonstrates the respectful attitude of its creator toward the best examples of Russian architecture. The synthetic of tradition and new ideas provides an inclusion of the Andreevsky monastery, which situated a bit lower, into the architectural image of the modern building. You want to be younger, to be prim when you're inside of this house. I guess our wall, the reflection of Andreevsky monastery, is over there.
Убедительно, красиво.
It is potent, beautiful.
Вот это ощущение гордости за то, что ты живешь в это время. То есть вот такое опережение времени, какие-то там новые технологии.
It is a pride for the fact that you live in this time.
По этим необыкновенным пространствам.
I was walking inside of these extraordinary spaces and got a brand new impression with every turn. The image of lattice is the base for design of walls, stained glass windows, vestibules, sconces and lanterns. Diversity of forms and colors of the halls and recreation zones emphasizes their destination. A play of reflected light unites the inner space with the outer one. Plato, an ancient Greek philosopher, while contemplating over the perfect academy, imagined it as a territory with lots of atriums, which must provide context and dialogues between the teacher and his pupils. The Presidium building had the similar atrium. The bronze allegoric statues spiritualize it. Weightless, they soar over the ground, showing the eternal aspiration for saints. This is a feeling of flight, when you see absolutely fabulous views and you soar over Moscow. A notable French architect, Georges Candelis, wrote, "What really impressed me was a feeling that this ensemble dominates the nearest panorama of Moscow, gives it a specific feature. This work faces the future." Not everyone could realize his own ideas then. It is his big creative success. There's a talent on the one hand and good luck on the other one. This allowed him to create two buildings that will live for ages. A tradition of making bridges lies from the ancient times. There's a lack of pedestrian bridges in our capital city, so the task of construction them remains topical. These suggestions provide making of the new pedestrian bridges on the base of their old skeletons. This method combines a nostalgic feeling for old architecture with a modern engineer decision. A Platonov's idea of moving Andreevsky and Krasnoyarsk railroad bridges that were not appropriate to the new third railroad line seemed to be absolutely unreal at first. Apart from moving the spans of bridges, builders had to disassemble them and after that to reassemble the granite foundation of 22,000 stones each on a new place.
Я слышал об этой идее перенести мост буквально на следующий день.
I had this idea when Yuri Platonov was speaking very emotionally at the Moscow government session. He managed to convince the mayor that the intention would be productive. He was so excited, as to me, honestly, I thought it is a gamble. To move bridges, that's quite unusual. Though the task was difficult, the Moscow government and the mayor supported it. Owing to the efforts of builders and architects, the task was completed successfully. The realization of the Platonov's project helped in maintaining the bridges at the historical monuments and included them into a city's life. We can observe Moscow from the new points. This is what important for architecture, for Moscow's perception. He also develops a new territory. Here is an embankment that will be lowered according to his project. An opening ceremony dedicated to the new Andreevsky Bridge was on the 3rd of September 1999. In summer of 2000, the Krasnoyarsk Bridge occupied its new place near the Kievsky railroad station. Now it is called the Bogdan Khmelnytsky Bridge. For architects and engineers, to finish any object is always a good happening, especially when this fact coincides with the city's anniversary. Now, these bridges are not only the means of communication, but also the artworks. This work took tens of institutes, the Transtroy Corporation, many remarkable engineers. All supervision and coordination provided by the organizer company. Yuri Platonov and his team awarded the Russian National Architecture Prize, the Crystal Daedalus, in 2001. In 2004, Yuri Platonov took one more significant award from the President, the Order of Merit. The Bogdan Khmelnytsky Bridge became a first step of the Kievsky Station Square reconstruction, as well as the Berezhkovskaya embankment. In 2002, the Rape of Europa fountain by Belgian sculptor Olivier Stribele was placed here. It is a gift of Brussels. The flagpoles with the European flags and the Café Rotunda Europa are also placed in the center of the square. The work continues. Each new architectural work of Yuri Platonov has its certain unrepeatable melody. The night lights over his pedestrian bridges, the fountain and the Europe Square are breathtaking and mystic. Inside the weird curves of metal, the viewer sees beautiful Europa sailing through an endless sea on the bull, whose shape was taken by Zeus. A fabulous symphony of light, shadow and ripple plays in front of our eyes. A concept has been devised for development and reconstruction of the provision storehouses at the basis for the Moscow Multifunctional Museum and Exhibition Center. The concept was suggested by the Russian Academy of Arts. When it is realized, Moscow will get a biggest cultural and exhibition center. 10 minutes walk from the provision storehouses, on the opposite bank of the Moskva River, there are Central House of Artists and the Tretikovskaya Gallery. Unfortunately, the first idea of authors, architects Sheverdaev and Sukoyan wasn't completely finished. A project by Platonov is asked to correct this. Changing the walls of the Grand House of Artists into a gigantic multi-screen may become an interesting mark. The screen will be used to demonstrate modern advertising and live cultural events. All stories will be appropriate to the main idea of the park.
Остается пройти там от одного моста к другому.
All I have to do is to walk from the one bridge toward the other one, across Komsomolsky Avenue, Devichy Pole, Plushchicha. By logic, they connect to each other, and you can see clearly a line of tourist pedestrian route.
Явно вырисовывается линия возможного туристического пешеходного маршрута.
The route is laid with due regard for historical monuments and new objects along its way. The priority belongs to a foot passenger.
Между площадью Европы или Москва-рекой.
There are a whole lot of sites and our traditional monuments between the Europe Square, Plushchicha, Neskushny Sad and the Frunzenskaya embankment.
Памятниками истории, насыщены нашей культурной жизнью и традицией.
The route in its final stage will be a new object of urban system. It will bring significant ecological and economical effects, provide new vacancies. By contributing to the transport situation in this big district, the route will raise the life level to the higher degree. Even when he's in his car and watches chimney stacks, he takes a piece of paper and starts to draw. He says, I'm gonna make this chimney stack nicer, so it won't uglify our city anymore. It will be a real decoration. Not everyone could realize his ideas successfully. This reminds me of the famous word said by Gashik. A baker's work lives for a day, a bootmaker's for a year, an architect's work will live for ages. The outline of the architect's work is defining a logical and functional property of the task suggested, and its realization in space as the aesthetic and technically mature composition. Yuri Platonov. Screenplay, director, Oleg Kutuzov. Cameraman, Mikhail Kozhevnikov, Andrei Tkachenko, Dmitry Vershinin. Consultants, Kirill Sergeyev, Galina Kuleshova. Editors, Oleg Kuzishin, Arsen Martirosyan. Editing director, Leonid Petkevich. Musical fragments by Bach, Guitarra, Vivaldi, Schulz, Rossini and other composers. Translated by Yulia Fedorova. Narrated by Yuri Petrov. Media Master Studio production by the order of the Moscow Union of Architects. 2004 production, Moscow.